You got one life, for crying out loud. You might as well just give it all you got.
The Deej, Dan Jordan.
Your daily dose of reality. Your daily dose of the Deej.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but I need my daily dose of the Deej.
I make the news. I don't watch the news. I'm a leader.
The Sales Energizer, Dan Jordan.
Listen, don't worry how to sell, baby. Worry about why people buy. And it's fun.
You don't need a 5-hour energy. All you need is the Sales Energizer.
Just when I think it's not going to be as fun as the one before, each one gets successfully better. What's the word I'm looking for? What's it going to take to get you into this car today, huh?
And now, please welcome the Sales Energizer, Dan Jordan.
Boom! That's exactly it.
Do that. Let's do that.
Boom!
That's exactly it.
You have the coolest background of all time. Look at that.
It's
you got
real.
lights,
It's real. You
Yeah,
can reach out and grab and play a funky bass line.
Unlike me.
I thought you were a top,
I'm thinking about getting one. You know, they have what's really cool is, and you can get these, by the way, on Amazon and everywhere. They have the same like view daytime and then at nighttime. So if you want to do it at night, you can.
Oh, and what incredible technology!
Yeah,
I mean, what a time to be alive.
Let me tell you, the whole technology is just all the new stuff. Even the words that you use is based on old like cutting and pasting. You know, like we do on a Word thing. That's what we used to do. We used to cut it out with a scissor and paste it on. And the problem was the tape always had like little lines on the side. All right, everybody, listen, unmute if you're on Amazon. We're on all the tubes all over the place and all sorts of stuff going on with things that you can get. But if you're on LinkedIn, if you're on Facebook, if you're on the Tube of Eunice and all those places, hey, listen, comment with me, play with me, answer questions. We have a really kind of a important topic that we're dealing with today with our guest, who hasn't quite showed up yet, has she, Christophe?
No, the show must go on.
Yes.
And so this is the show. This is what we do. And I think there's a lot to learn if you're in sales and you're a content creator as well. Sometimes you get curveballs, right? Sometimes life is going to throw you something. You're like, oh God, I spent all this time doing this. And then something out of your control happens. And then you've got to roll. You know? Yeah,
no big deal. And for salespeople, and you salespeople out there know that, who cares? I mean, you're always, in a salesperson's life, it's 90%, if not rejection, you're dealing with 90% disappointment. You know, something's always going wrong. You know, a tire's blowing out, or you're late, or there's traffic, or your phone doesn't work, or the person doesn't answer, the person doesn't show. I mean, a million, everything all day long. It's 90%, which is why it's so important to remember the simple things about sales is that sales come in pairs. You know, and so when you finally get something good, get back on the phone, talk to somebody else because you want to get something else real quickly.
Well, you know what, Dan? That's a perfect segue because actually, because the show went on and because we didn't cancel and because we're on all the tubes, our guest is actually here in the green room. She's enjoying, milk and cookies that we have for her in the green room. And so she made it. I'm sure there was something, for the last 5-7 minutes that was more important than being on the show because she has a job that, maybe more important than ours, but that's okay. We'll live, right, Dan?
Yes. Well, that's perfect. Well, so listen, the show is all about like salespeople. People don't realize this, but a lot of salespeople were very compulsive type people. We kind of feed off, energy. We feed off, that success, that little success is almost like a drug. And it just keeps you going again. I remember hearing Kenny Rogers talk about that. Kenny Rogers, he had like a string of hits, but he said, man, when you get the crowd reaction the first time, he goes, it's a drug. You just can't stop it. You always looking for that. That's why all the marriages break up, all sorts of things happen because they're going towards that. So I've been fascinated by addictions and compulsions my whole life, with the fear that I'd become, a statistic. And so lo and behold, one day I met the person who can actually help me and help all of us succeed more in life. And so please help me welcome, without further ado, Emily, some crazy middle name, Myers. Come on down.
Hi, guys. Thank you for having me. I apologize.
Oh, there's a rule, by the way. When you come on, arms have to be in the air. So please help me welcome, without further ado, Emily, some crazy middle name, Myers.
Woo!
Hey, that works.
All right. We got a woo too. You're not required to do a woo, but that's an extra thing.
Added value already.
You know what I love? So now, Emily, you work, what's the name of the place that you work in?
Long Branch Healthcare.
Okay, Long Branch Healthcare, which sounds like an institution that they would, people would send people on one flew over the cuckoo's nest, which I know it's not, but I know it's not that crazy, but your background is perfect. Looks very institutional. I'm waiting for Jack Nicholas to come out. It's very,
that's my fault.
I
I moved in this building in October last year. I can't believe it's been a year. It's been a crazy year. And honestly, I just haven't had the time to sit down and decorate. So it's really a little bit nicer than this room. But yes,
listen, thank goodness we have you in the middle to make it, to liven it up. All right. Yeah. That's what we got going on there. By the way, if you need pictures and things like that or backgrounds, Amazon.com, baby.
There we
Careful,
go.
Don't break the window, Dan. Don't break that window.
I have to steam it because there's like little lines in it. But I did steam it, and what happened, it stretched. Best laid plans, what happened. So you're there at Long Branch, and I met you. How did I meet you? Because you're in Louisiana.
Yeah, you came and spoke at our Vistage meeting in Nigeria. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's right. So we're down and met some really great people. But since then, you've had a lot of issues going on in Louisiana.
Yeah, just a few. We were direct victims of Hurricane Ida. And so the last month has been pretty hectic and busy in our area. So definitely been a challenge last month, but super proud of our team, and all of our facilities were able to stay open and operate despite all of the challenges. And we were able to accept new patients 2.5 days after the storm, which I was pretty proud of our team due to all the limitations. So,
well, that's awesome. So now tell us a little bit about, who you serve. Mm-hmm. And then I'm going to ask you questions in terms of how my listeners and the salespeople look at this, but who's like a typical, you call them patients. I hate to call them patients, but
patients, clients. It depends on how which counselor you're talking to or which staff member you're talking to.
Okay, well, let's call them customers.
Sure, customers.
Okay, who's your perfect customer?
So our typical customer is someone who is probably in some degree of crisis. They either had some sort of event that's prompting them to seek treatment. That's typically why people go to treatment, is there's some sort of external life circumstance that affects them negatively. That could be with their family, that could be with their job, that could be their health. It could be a lot of different reasons that kind of prompt someone finally to seek help. People typically, prior to coming to us, know that they might have some problems with alcohol or drugs or their mental health. They've been trying their own means to stop or change on their own, and they're just unable to. They've tried multiple times and are unsuccessful on their own, usually before they come to us. And then they'll reach out to us for help and decide if they need to go to the outpatient side, which is where you live at home, and or go to work at the same time and go to treatment, or you might need to go to inpatient, which is a residential, where you go live in the facility for a period of time to work through those issues. So it's a kind of a variety of reasons that people come. And we have a lot of different kinds of clients that come. Sometimes it's stay-at-home moms, sometimes it's professionals, sometimes it's and sometimes it's veterans. We accept the veterans and military as well, and first responders. And so it depends on, what they need and why they come. So, and we try to pride ourselves in providing really good small treatment. So we're very small. We're much more boutique. We're very home-like feeling, a really high client to staff ratio. So you get a lot of individualized attention.
Well, and does that transfer into more success?
I believe so. I believe that, the more attention you can get and the more quality of care you get, the better your outcomes. All of our staff are licensed master's level counselors, all of our clinical staff. We have an entire medical team that's comprised of RNs and LPNs, phlebotomists, medical assistants, and also our medical team. Your patients or our patients, customers, will see a doctor with us multiple times a week during detox, and then they'll see them once a week after that, after detox. And then during, even further out, they might see a psychiatrist and a doctor. We have addiction medicine physicians and psychiatrists that see our patients. So,
what's the difference? I always get confused. A psychiatrist and a psychologist.
Yeah, so a psychologist is someone that gets a doctorate, but they get it in psychology. So they're doing something called clinical psychology, which is you're learning how to do counseling skills or assessments. So you're basically assessing to diagnose someone, to differentiate between different kinds of diagnosing. And then you usually cannot prescribe medication as a psychologist. Some states you can. They can get a specialty medical psychology degree or certification, and they can prescribe certain medications. Doctors go to full medical school and they complete residencies and fellowships and go through medical school completely. And they can do many, depending on their specialty, they can do many different kinds of medicine. And psychiatrists will specialize in psychiatry, which is the treatment of the mental illness in the brain, diagnosing and medication for those issues.
Jeez.
Mm-hmm.
God, and do you do that? Or because here's the thing, what do you do? What's your role in the place?
Well, so I started out at Long Branch. I'm a LPC, as a licensed professional counselor is what that stands for in our state. Every state has a different alphabet soup is what I call it, but different letters after your names. But I have a master's degree in marriage and family counseling. And so my background is learning how to treat the family and also the mental health issues of individuals and providing counseling for those issues. And my primary clinical work has been in addiction treatment. So dual diagnosis is what the industry calls it.
So these addictions, are these the typical person that comes? Is it the stereotype that I would, expect? Is it the 24-year-old guy who's just been partying for too many years and just like, I'm in trouble? Or is it the grown-ups and their kids move out and they just start drinking a lot? Or what is I know you said housewives.
All of them, man. I got those all sound familiar to me.
Really?
Yeah, I've got the young guy that failure to launch is kind of what we call that story a lot of times, where
failure to launch.
They started to experiment with drugs and alcohol. Typically, in the average age of first chemical use or intoxication is 12 years old in the United States. So, they maybe started abusing alcohol in their teen years, and then at some point they cross that threshold into the disease of addiction and just are unable to stop. And then they've gone to college where you have more freedom because they were holding together during high school. A lot of times they've gone to college and then they kind of spiral out from there and just never can really get back on track or stop. If they're alcoholics or addicts, it's very hard to stop yourself. That's why treatment centers exist, because
is it more, people always say drugs and alcohol. Is it more one or the other?
Not really. It's all the same impact on the brain. It's part of the limbic system of the brain that gets affected, as well as your frontal lobe, which is your decision-making part of your brain. And so alcohol and drugs basically do the same thing from I'm very general description here, but they basically do the same thing with the same type of chemicals. There's different receptors for different drugs. I won't get too complicated and technical, but it does have the same impact on the brain in the way it affects their inability to make decisions and delay impulses.
All right. Well, so since pot has kind of lost its stigma, it went from like reefer madness. You don't even know what reefer madness. It went from like reefer madness to weekend, with your parents. And so it's have you noticed any change with the kind of liberalization of drugs in the general society?
Well, see, the thing about, I don't see a lot of, in our treatment center, we see a lot of our demographic skews a little bit older. So we typically see a little bit more professionals and people, like I described, stay-at-home moms, people maybe after their kids graduate from, high school, or maybe they're empty nesting. Retirement's a big time for people to spiral into addiction. And so we get a lot of that.
Retirement?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Really?
People lose a lot of their purpose when they retire, and they may have been functionally drinking, beforehand. And then you add that added stressor of retirement, losing your purpose. A lot of times people start drinking excessively or using drugs.
Right. That's right. So my dad used to say, Danny, in this country, you can worry or you can work. Can't do both. Because when you sit home and worry, you start drinking. What the heck? I mean, it's already 9:30.
Yeah. And we actually do see a lot of opioid dependence in the elderly population too.
Really?
That is something else we do see quite a bit of, just because with pain issues, that can pop up quite a bit too. So, it kind of answering that question with pot, the pot is a lot more potent to be. It's a lot more potent with the THC levels and the percentages and things like that than it was in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and with legalization.
And Mason's backyard.
Right. Yeah. So it's a lot more potent. And the problem is a lot of young people don't understand how marijuana can actually affect in a developing brain specifically.
Really?
It can actually punt a lot of young people into psychotic episodes. Specifically, it's hallucinogenic. It's kind of like LSD or something like that. So it actually can punt a lot of people that have those tendencies or predispositions to schizophrenia, bipolar, things like that. It can actually either punt them into that where they can't come back from that, or it can, it can punt them into that, or, where they can't come back from that overall. So
got it. Now Patrick Tinney is talking. Patrick Tinney is a remarkable guy. He had terrible back pain and all sorts of issues that he couldn't move. He actually punched himself out. I mean, it's that painful that he just, banged his head enough to pass out. That's how, painful it is. And so he was on a million drugs. And I've been speaking with him, and he's managed to get off them. And my question to you is, we can talk about CBD later. My question to you is, Emily Hausenschlossen-Myers, is what? Gosh, what was my question? It was really good. Oh yeah, is someone who can overcome that stuff? Is it because they have more willpower? Does willpower have anything to do with it, or is it the same compulsion? This is my example. Some people, when they quit smoking, always want to smoke. But other people, when they quit smoking, they're like the most fervent, non-smoking, in your face. There's somebody 400 miles away with a lit cigarette. I can smell it. And they're just, if you have clothes from 1978 that somebody was smoking at the bar mitzvah, they would smell it. And they're like really against it. So do they turn that kind of, obsessive compulsive in doing something away from it?
Well, it's a very complicated question to answer. A lot of my answers are going to be very complicated because recovery is a complicated thing. But what I'll speak to is statistics. So about 10%. You can
just so easily lie to me. I mean, just break it down.
I can lie.
I want to do this stuff at home. Like, will a back massage fix it? I mean, just give me.
I wish, honestly, if I could back massage everyone into sobriety and help them solve their problems with slaps or back massage or something quick, I would. If there was a cure, but the thing is, it's a chronic pervasive disease and progressive disease. So what that means is chronic diseases can't be cured. They can only be managed. And so what that means is that some people can stop using drugs. And there's a lot of people that get mislabeled as alcoholics and addicts, true alcoholics and addicts, when they were more like hard drinkers and hard users and had some abuse potential, and then just kind of woke up one day and stopped. And so a lot of people think that they may have been an alcoholic and then they just woke up one day and said, nope, I'm not going to do it anymore. Well, that's not the true alcoholic brain. And I know that might be controversial to some people, but that's the alcoholic brain and addict brain has a very hard time just waking up and stopping one day. That's just not typically how it works. It's a process that requires, a lot of things that go into it. It requires, usually some sort of program, which is usually AA, NA, sometimes Celebrate Recovery, Refuge Recovery. There's a lot of those out there. Medication, therapy, treatment, and abstinence or medication, medicated assisted treatment. So those are things that are all part of recovery, and people's outcomes get better depending on if they have family support, depending on if they have access to care and medication and treatment, depending on if they have a doctor or someone in their corner that really understands addiction and how it works, and understands what they're up against and what kind of medications they can't have in recovery. And there's a lot of things. So honestly, what I kind of think about it as, there's a something called a CSOC, which is the Coordinated System of Care, and or Coordinated Oriented System of Care. And what that is, it's basically I kind of view it like a Red Rover, if that makes sense. That game when you were a kid that you played, that you have like all these people lined up to protect, the thing on the other side of, or a football game, you can use whatever analogy you want, but something on the other side, right? And so you can't just have one person or one lineman, right? If we're in football analogy here. You got to have multiple things that help protect someone from a relapse in order to stay sober, have successful outcomes. So there's a lot of different statistics, and I could bore you all with all of that. And I'm a big nerd for stats, but it's that can help you improve those outcomes. But it's complicated, I guess, is how I would describe that answer.
All right. Well, because I would just like to transfer one, compulsion to another, but you say it has to. It's brain stuff. What's the difference, with I guess the THC and CBD? Because those are big now. What's the difference?
Yeah, that's a big difference. So also it depends on where you get your CBD too. But if you get your CBD from a raw shop, or if you get it from a place that is a
truck stop,
trusted, that kind of thing. So
I get mine from Alfonso down the street.
There you go. Exactly.
Yeah.
CBD is great. There's a lot of research that talks about it for pain, for epilepsy, a lot of different issues, right? So there's a lot.
Well, they say it makes homeostasis. Listen, I've never taken it, but they say it makes homeostasis. It makes things even in your body, and so you're. Yeah,
it can, and it's we have natural receptors for cannabinoids. So I mean, it's a great, thing for a lot of people. And the thing I always tell people that are in recovery, though, I always tell them to be careful with CBD, because there is sometimes, if they're like under testing requirements for like a custody battle or court or something like that, CBD sometimes will show up on a drug test has THC in it, and then they'll fail their drug test and wind up going to jail or losing their kids or something because they took CBD. And if it's not regulated properly, they can pop hot on a drug test, which could really affect them negatively. So I always tell people that are early on in the recovery process, just be very careful of what you're putting in your body so that you don't have those consequences later on. Because the nature of addiction is some people have a lot of consequences they're dealing with as they're recovering from their problems. So,
well, let me ask you this: do you see most of the? I say most. You do whatever averages you want to do, but there's two ways to kind of become addicted, in my opinion. One is because you like the drug and you like the high and all that, and then it just gets out of hand. But a lot of times, there's these prescription drugs where you go for their pain pills or what have you, and then you go on that path there. So which way do you see more of?
Like which one? That's again another complicated question. Right now,
it gets everything.
Right. What I see more of. So yeah, I mean, obviously, I think the climate of the prescription culture is getting more regulated, and there's a lot more conversation about how addictive opioids are. 33% of people that take opioids are likely to be using them a year later. So what that means is they have a much higher addictive potential than other drugs do, and alcohol. So, basically, if one of us, three people on this call take opioids, there's a good chance one of the three of us will really, really like them and abuse them and potentially become dependent on them. And there's also research to show that after about 10 to 15 days of opioid use, you'll start experiencing withdrawal symptoms once you stop taking them. So even after just a regular surgery and you're taking opioids for about 10 days, you can start having withdrawal symptoms, which means your body's forming a dependence on those medications. It's very
That's what it means?
Mm-hmm. It can be very, very fast. I had a friend of mine actually that went for get his tonsils removed. And he said he was on the liquid painkiller for about a week, 10 days. He said he felt like absolute bad crap for a while after that. Like just, and he was having all the normal symptoms of opioids. And so the thing is, it's just about being, aware of your family history, kind of like any other medical condition, being aware of your family history, only taking pain medicine when you need to and as it's prescribed to you, and being very aware of that tendency to take it sooner than the hour requirement or needing more of, because that means tolerance is happening. So, and talking to your doctor about maybe alternative means other than increasing the dosage. And again, I'm not a physician, so I don't want to play doctor, but exploring all your options so that these things don't happen to you and being informed of how addictive these chemicals are. So,
this is just
higher addictive potential, but the stats are, I would say, I think I see a little bit less than I did a few years ago with the prescription addictions, just because of like the story that we were hearing a lot in media because of the regulations, but we do still hear about it quite a bit, and what'll happen to a lot of people is they'll start on opioids and then maybe they'll get off of them, but they switch over to alcohol. So they cross addict with other chemicals.
Cross addict.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so, it seems like, and people tell this to me too, in sales, that, I can never be in sales. It's just a terrible business. You're always getting rejected. I can't live with it. You seem to be in a pretty yucky business. Why would you you got to deal with depression all day and all these, how do you not start doing drugs?
Oh, how am I not doing drugs?
How are you keeping yourself so pleasant and uplifted in the face of all that?
Yeah, what I'll say about why I'm in this profession is, I love working with people in recovery. It's one of the most rewarding professions as a human being that you get to do, is watching someone that was literally in a methadone line a month ago. This is my owner's story, right? And he doesn't mind me sharing this on his behalf, but he was in a methadone line 21 years ago, like literally had no hope, was, about to go to prison the rest of his life. And he wound up getting sober, and now he runs, multiple successful healthcare companies and is really involved in the AA community and sponsors people, and is just a wonderful, compassionate, takes really care of his employees. He's a really good person, and I have so many friends like that, that work in the industry, and so many amazing people that I meet. And it's so exciting to me to watch the energy transfer from your addiction, of how much energy it robs from you in your life and your motivations and your family and your values. And then you transfer it into the things that matter to you. And that's literally what happens. You transfer this energy of all this toxic behavior and unhealthy and all the things that you're putting, all the energy it takes to, maintain an addiction is very, very hard. And then you move that into the things that matter to you, and you get to watch someone come back to life and have all the things they want and they care about. And I watched that happen within a couple of months to, a year and a half to 2 years. And that's an amazing redemption story. And I get to watch that over and over and over and over and over again. And it lights me on fire every day. And being an administrator, I'm not doing the direct clinical care anymore, but I get to build these programs and I get to put them in places that need them, and look at what populations aren't we serving and how can we better serve people and how can we improve ourselves and be the best place that we can be for our patients. And because everybody deserves to go to, this room looks sterile, but a nice building and gets to be in a nice place with good people that want to take good care of them during their time of need, just like for any other medical problem,
Wow.
And
well, Chris Stone, I think she just made that commercial. What do you think?
Yeah, that was fantastic.
Are you out of your mind?
I always wonder that about counselors, coaches, whether they're dealing with people, marriage, or addiction, or all of these things that, you're obviously a fantastic person. You have your act together. But I also feel like, if you're someone who's empathetic, right, and you seemingly are, how do you not when you're speaking with someone, when you're counseling with someone, and you hear some probably horrific stories about either their past or what they're going through currently, how do you keep that from affecting yourself personally? How do you keep that?
Yeah.
And is it, think about all these people that you've helped in the past, and that this is how I'm going to apply it? Or is there something more practical that you do in order to make sure that you're taking care of yourself as well as you're taking care of others?
Yeah, I mean, that's a big topic in our industry, is self-care. I mean, in just every conference and every CEU I go to, there's usually some reference to self-care, because it's very important, for people in the helping professions. And that's not just counselors, that's nurses, that's doctors, that's a lot of different types of professions.
Policemen.
Is about just taking care of yourself and kind of using that oxygen mask analogy, right? Of like, I can't be effective for other people if I don't put the oxygen mask on myself first so that I can help others. So that's, me taking, I joke, I do work really, really hard, and I work a lot of hours, but what I do well is whenever I'm on vacation, I be on vacation. I take my vacations and I take my time off, and that's important for me. And then also my dogs are a big self-care thing for me. I love spending time with my animals, and just being with them is just so fun and pleasant. And those are things that I'm aware about myself that I do to, maintain my own sanity. I'm also in therapy. All therapists should have their own therapist. I believe that
really
through, why would I ask my clients to come to therapy with me if I'm not willing to go to myself? So I really do believe in that heavily. So just doing those basic things, and I'm sure I could do many things better. And then you asked me a little bit about, do I think like woulda, coulda, shoulda with old clients? I think, for myself, back when in the beginning, when I was a new therapist, I wish that I would have had the skills I have today to better serve the clients I had back then, but obviously I didn't. And, my hope is that they got what they needed, and as much as I could give them, and then maybe they found someone that could better serve them. I view counseling a little bit like dating. You got to find the right fit. You got to kind of break up with a therapist if it's not the right fit, and then find the right person for you. Because if you don't feel comfortable with a person, you're not going to be able to be open and transparent and share your deep, dark stuff you got going on, or just happy things, or good, anything. And therapy is not always when it's bad. It can be when it's good too.
That's right.
So.
Well, I've got a couple questions for you and one comment. So the question is, I want to get to Patrick Tinney's question about the relationship between blood pressure and that. But before that, I want to ask you, do the people that come to you, do they come to you on their own volition, or are they dragged in by family members and other counselors?
Well,
and the comment is, and then the comment I want to make is that you said doo-doo. Just want to let you know.
Huh?
All right.
I said what?
You said doo-doo.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh, I did? Okay. Yeah.
It's okay. It's supposed to be, Emily, it's supposed to be a joke.
Oh.
That's the problem with Chris Stone with counselors.
I was like, wait, what did I say?
Well, it wasn't
a sailor mouth, so I was like, did I do that?
Yeah.
But,
the bad dad jokes are coming quick, Emily.
Okay.
It's like,
right.
just
Right.
Carry on. Carry on.
Right.
I'm trying to be good. But anyways, yeah. How do they get in? It depends. I mean, I've had families that stage interventions because.
Oh, really? Like the TV show?
Yeah, I mean,
they do actual interventions.
It exists. Yep, that show's real. It's similar to it. It's not always that way, but they're similar to that. But yeah, I mean, the guy that Ken Seeley that's on the intervention show, he's I've gone to trainings with him and things like that. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And there's a whole certifications for an interventionist. So it exists. So some people stage interventions, some people, their job makes them go. Some people, they do have jail stuff hanging over their head. There's a custody thing hanging over their head. So there's some sort of, we call that external motivation that go to treatment. And then there's internal motivation. Some people just wake up one day and say, I am sick and tired of being sick and tired, and I want to go get help, and they're willing. Now, the willingness window is very short. So usually what I tell people is, if you're in the willingness window, go to treatment today. Bring a bag if you're going to go tour it. Like, don't let you talk yourself out of it, because what'll happen is you get back home and then kind of back to I can do this on my own. And then it's another 6 months and more pain and suffering. And the pain and suffering can end today. And that's what I tell people. It doesn't have to keep going on.
So. That's awesome. All right. Well, so Patrick wants to know about the correlation between what is the relationship between blood pressure and extreme breakthrough pain?
Well, so just to speak to that, Patrick, I am not a doctor, so I don't want to, speak out of my scope of practice here. But what I can tell you is that there is a relationship between blood pressure and stress levels, as well as chronic pain has a huge relationship with cortisol. Is a chemical in your body that's related to stress. And a lot of cortisol being released over long periods of time can have huge negative effects on your physical health, like very, very negative effects on your health. It actually will shorten your lifespan. It's through this process of shortening your telomeres. And so all of these things are interrelated. I think we have a hard time, as a culture, we want to find the cause for the thing and be like, okay, what's the cause for this problem in my body? Well, the problem is if you got high blood pressure and it's unregulated, it's going to have an effect on your other parts of your body, whether that's your pain receptors in your brain, because it's hitting the blood vessels in your body. And so that might be affecting that. There's a lot of different things that can happen. So when we look at medicine, I'm hoping that medicine will move this direction of being more holistic in nature and really being accepting of lots of other things, other than just taking a medication, because medications are pretty invasive, you're changing chemistry in your body. And so is there something else you can do rather than just pop a pill or is there something else you can do? Or maybe it's medication and other things, together. So what is the best thing for us as human beings? I think it's a holistic ideology and approach to people in their physical health and their mental health as well.
Right. Can we talk a little bit more about like the practical stuff outside of medicine,
Sure.
right? That someone, outside of CBD, outside of all of those things that are sort of alternates, because sometimes I feel like if someone is just replacing their alcohol shaped hole with something else, they're not, maybe dealing with something that is larger in scope. And is it fitness? Is it nutrition? I mean, maybe the answer to all of that is yes, but are there some sort of practical, and I'm sure there's somebody listening either on replay now or live or watching this as well. And they're like, well, maybe that's me, maybe they're getting that stir. Like practically, what can they do themselves? But if they do have that itch to go and go somewhere, where are some easy sort of resources for them?
Well, yeah, I mean, honestly, I think the easiest resource that they can definitely look into is SAMHSA, is the substance abuse. Oh my God, I can't remember the actual acronym, but it's SAMHSA, SAMHSA. It's a website, and they have thousands of options for treatment centers and treatment options. Also, they offer coping skills. Thank you. They have options and coping skills there, and lots of resources, free stuff that's available to people. They hook people up to treatment. They hook them up to AA and support groups in their area. There's a lot of great resources just on that website alone. NAMI, National Alliance of Mental Illness, that's another great resource that has lots of options. If people are interested in 12-step fellowship, just looking up the Alcoholics Anonymous website, there's all the stuff you can get for free on there. You can go to online Zoom meetings just to get a taste for what it might be like. You don't ever have to, you can, don't have to put your camera on in an online Zoom meeting. It's very anonymous. You can call into a national phone meeting, and it's a conference call. There's all sorts of different resources. Cruises have Friends of Bill W on them, which is AA. It's everywhere. You can find it if you want it.
Wow.
There's also the national, if you're having struggles with mental illness and suicide, the National Suicide Hotline is really, really good to call there. It's always staffed 24/7. You can call at any point in time. And this is, by the way, National Suicide Prevention Month. So something just to be aware of.
Really?
So there's lots of
they have a suicide prevention month. I didn't realize how big suicide was. I haven't been paying attention to the news, but when I was down by you in Louisiana, I was talking to some Uber drivers, and there was one said she had 4 friends, 4 people, friends in her circle that had committed suicide. It's like, it's an epidemic. How are they, and it's a challenge for me. because I sound like I'm poo-pooing it, but I just, for someone who's kind of, and I realize this even as a kid, I have a naturally kind of upbeat disposition.
Mhm.
It's easier for me to smile than it is, say, for my sister,
Right.
who's not terrible, but it's just whatever. That's just what it is. So I understand that other people are different, but it's difficult. But to actually go that route of being that hopeless for tomorrow is something that I can't comprehend. It makes no sense to me.
And it is very hard to comprehend when you are in that really dark place. It's hard for people to even talk about it because it's hard for other people to understand how hard that is. And honestly, one thing is that if your friends or family, may struggle with depression or anxiety or other mental health issues, schizophrenia, bipolar, and even that woman you mentioned or the Uber driver you mentioned is very high risk for suicide just for having that many people around them commit suicide. Because the more people you have around you that do it, the more at risk you are yourself. And so that's something, it's very important to be aware of that. And I always like to, when I talk about suicide prevention, is making sure that that you're never going to put that thought in someone's mind just by having a conversation. I think a lot of people get concerned about that, but that's really important to know that you can talk to someone, just listen to them as a human being and just being there and knowing where your resources are, knowing what your local suicide hotline is always really important. Yeah. For us here in Louisiana, it's 211 is a really great resource here, but then the national number, store that in your phone, it's a great
but let's say it's not you. Let's say you're trying to help somebody.
Right.
Hey, let me give you the suicide hotline number just in case. I mean, that's not. I mean, you would think you would be. Yeah,
you would say,
giving them the idea.
If you were talking to somebody like they're really struggling, you'd say, it sounds like you're really struggling right now, and I'm really worried about you, and I just want to make sure that this is available to you. It's staffed 24/7. It's anonymous to call. There's no, you can call at any time if you need it, and thank you so much for putting on the board. I appreciate it.
Is Chris Stone not the best thing ever?
This is amazing. Yeah,
I love this. I tell everybody I meet, everyone needs a Chris Stone.
Exactly. And this is the kind of thing, it's just saying you're struggling and here's the number in case you need it. And is there anything I can do to help you or support you? Do you need me do you want to go out to lunch? What do you need from me to feel supported? And I love you and I care about you. That's the biggest message, to make, you're imparting to someone that you think is struggling. It doesn't even have to be that they told you they're thinking about suicide, just that that they're sad and they're struggling and they're having a hard time. And there's, just by you reaching out, you might save their life, and that's something, just that little, I remember someone told me once in session that someone smiled at them on the street and they had a very kind smile and that told them that stopped them that day. I mean, just that.
Are you kidding me? Could that not be more perfect? That's exactly the whole thing. Giving us a smile is a gift, and it costs you nothing to give.
Exactly.
And people receive that. So, but you're absolutely, I'm so thankful that you told me that little line of just saying, hey, it seems like you're struggling. Here's something because I've learned this, actually, I learned this from marriage. There are two words you should never say when your wife is upset. And it works in sales, but there's two words you never say. These two words are calm down.
Yeah.
You'll get the exact opposite of what you're looking for. And similar to this, when somebody's down and depressed, the most natural thing to say is, what are you talking about? What's so bad? I mean, it's pretty good out here, or you'll get over it.
Yeah. Because there's something, and a lot of people don't realize that there's two kinds of depression. There's exogenous, which is outside. It's there's a life circumstance that happens, right? Like a loss of a person. And then there's endogenous depression, which is a chemical imbalance. Those are the people that maybe need medication their whole life in order to function, because exogenous can use medication in short term, but endogenous is the type of depression where it's really chronic usually, and people who require medication, maybe they have treatment resistant depression, which is where the medications aren't working for them at all. And they've been the guinea pig for every medicine on the market and it's just not working. And so they get very depressed with, even more so, they get defeated, that there's not hope for them and it's not going to get better. And so, we don't know who that person is. And those people are very good at putting on the, the fake it till you make it face, right? That they're going to hide it. They don't want to be a burden to others. And a lot of times, and because they've been maybe told messages like, just suck it up, you'll get through this, you know? And so the biggest thing we can do is have empathy for our fellow human being, and just knowing that you're struggling for whatever reason you're struggling for. It doesn't, you know, I mean, that feeling is the thing that matters. The cause of the feeling, sure, that's important, but a lot of times just having empathy for someone's feeling and experience. And that's what makes us feel heard as people, is that we feel like other people understand our feeling and what we're experiencing. And that's really important. So as much of, you know, practicing like, wow, it seems like you're really sad. And that's all. We don't have to say anything else other than that. Just, and then they say, yeah. And then we can say, well, tell me, do you know why you're feeling sad? They might not, but they can say, I'm just feeling really sad and bummed. And that's okay.
Well, what do you do? I'm talking as a dad now. So what do you do with, I make that comment, hey, you seem like you're really sad. Yeah, I am. Well, what is it about? Well, nothing.
Sure.
I don't want to talk about it. So what do I do?
And then you might say, okay, I hear you. You know, it sounds like maybe you're not ready to talk about it, but if you ever are ready to talk about it, you know, I'm here to listen whenever you're ready. That's invitation, right? Just inviting people back in, and you know, and is it okay with you if I check in with you later? You know, I would feel better if I check in with you later. And then they might say, well, no, I really don't want that from you. And you say, okay. And then respecting that boundary is important too. But letting them know, I, as your dad, want to check in, you know, with you later.
Yeah, I never get the, no, that would be okay. I get no.
Well, then you step a little bit back. Maybe they just want some space.
That would be it. You know, this has been a very, very enlightening. And the thing that I get most out of this is that there's hope.
Mm-hmm. There is.
You know, that you can, it's not nothing aside from death is permanent here. As long as people can find people like you. So how do people find you?
Yeah, I mean, people can find us, or people like us, a lot of pretty easy now. Google, right, is the easiest way to find things. But, you know, if you're looking for us specifically, Long Branch Healthcare, you can Google it, or it's www.longbranchhealthcare.com. We're on Facebook, Instagram. We haven't started a TikTok yet. We're getting there, but you know, not there. So you can Google us, and then longbranchhealthcare.com. You can also call our helpline, which is our admissions line. It's staffed 24/7. So that's 504-635-3535. And they can call us anytime. We have.
Could you say that again?
504-635-3535.
Nailed it. Look at that. Okay. Well, that's terrific. This, you know, there's so many. I think we all experience different levels of ups and downs. A lot of people don't know, you know, as up and as positive as go get them as I am, baby, that's as low as I can get too. And so there's always this kind of daily struggle, not a struggle. It's just daily look forward to be able to play this game in your head. And I, you know, personally, I kind of love I'm not an alcoholic, meaning I don't drink, but I know if I had a couple, I'd be one. And so I've gone to AA, I've gone to Al-Anon, I've gone to Alateen, I've gone to these codependency groups. I think it's because they always ask me to talk about myself, and I like doing that. But maybe that's my addiction. I don't know, but I've been to all these things, and with all these conversations, I get the same feeling that I get here, that there's hope, that people can change. They're working on themselves to get better. They know it starts, you know, with the desire to get better. And it's like in sales, the desire to succeed in whatever you're doing. And this is succeeding and getting better. And then understanding that there's just so much that yourself and your willpower can do. Yeah. And you just have to accept the help from others. And when that happens, there's no stopping you. And you could have that glorious feeling that you have when you see people make that energy shift. And I think it's wonderful. So I feel better having you here. Do you have any parting words?
I do. I like always to say for people whenever they're thinking about getting help or anything like that, or even just like changing your life, making a change in general, right? Wanting it and willing to do it are two very different things. So that's all you have to remember is you might not want to do it that day, but are you willing to do it, right? Are you willing to take that hard step or do that hard thing or just take that? And it's a sliver of willingness. It doesn't have to be a lot, just a little bit, right? If you're willing to sit your butt in the chair at work that day and you don't want to be there, right? So sending that email, whatever it might be, but are you willing to? And that's something that, you know, we can all just remember. We have a little bit of willingness inside of us, then we can get there. And that's all it takes, just a little bit of willingness, and you can get a long way. And change happens. Baby steps are change. You always think about the big picture of how people got there, and it scares us and overwhelms us. But changes are little incremental steps every single day. Just even going to the gym takes 6 steps to get your butt into the gym to actually start exercising, right? It's getting up, getting dressed, putting on your shoes, getting in your car, wherever you're going, or even to your other room in your house. You know, that's 6 things you got to do, you know, before you even do it. So am I willing to do that one little step, you know, in order to do that thing that I want to change my life?
Baby steps. That's exactly right. The definition of success, as Jim Rohn says, is simple little disciplines practiced every day. Mm-hmm. Even if all you do is get dressed, drive to the gym, and then come back home, you at least did more than you did yesterday. I appreciate you for coming, and for all you watching, Chris Stone, once again, mastery in everything he does. And just remember, in sales, in life, and in the whole world, and by the way, Emily, stick around after we get out of here for a second. In sales, in life, and in your personal life and your marriage, everybody's going through all these changes every day. You never know what's going on in somebody else's life. Never wish for anybody else's circumstances, and understand that there are people out there willing to help. You do that and your success is sure, because you're the best. I'm the teach. Go get them today.